wishing all of you a very devoted, blissful and happy Mahashivratri. As we know, Lord Shiva is considered to be the Adi Guru or the very first teacher. And so, today let us hear a story about how Lord Shiva showered his grace on us in the form of Adi Shankaracharya ji. Now, the Supreme Lord sometimes manifests at our level of perception, either as a Purna avatar like Rama or Krishna, or as an Avesha avatar on the spur of the moment like Lord Narasimha, as Nitya avatar in all the saints that walked our holy land, or as Archa avatar in the very idols that we worship at home and in the temples. Amsha avatar means that the Lord has come to play a very important role on this earth, and out of his compassion, Lord Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji was born. It was around the year 7th century AD in a small village Kaladi in Kerala, where there lived a very pious couple, Shivaguru and Aryamba. They prayed to Lord Shiva for a son, and he came to them in a dream, asking them whether they wished for an extraordinary son who would live very short, only for 16 years, or many ordinary sons who would live long. And they naturally chose the former. And so, on the Shukla Panchami day in the Hindu calendar month of Vaishakha, at Veliyanad in Ernakulam, which was a maternal house of Aryamba, baby Shankara was born. He was a delight and a child prodigy. By the age of 5, he got the holy thread or the Upanayanam ceremony done on him, and he was sent to the Gurukul. By the age of 6, he had mastered all the Vedas. In fact, during those times, it was the custom at the Gurukul that the brahmacharis or students would go house to house collecting alms as bhiksha for their lunch. One day, little Shankara went to a poor lady's hut asking for bhiksha. Now she rummaged through her stores but could find nothing. And so very shyly and sadly she gave him a single amla fruit or a gooseberry. Seeing this, little Shankara was moved with compassion because he knew that this lady, though poor, had a very generous heart. And so he composed a hymn which is known as the Kanakadara Stotram, hearing which goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, started showering golden amla fruits in the hut of the poor lady. These miracles, however, did not affect Shankara, for he had a higher purpose in life. On completing his education, when he came back home, he lost his father very early. And he could see that his mother would suffer a lot because she had to trudge a very long distance to collect water from the river Purna for her daily household needs. She often fainted due to exhaustion, and so one day Shankara called out to the river goddess, "O Mother Purna, won't you start flowing near our house and save my mother from her trouble?" And soon the river Purna started flowing gently near their house. Meanwhile, little Shankara had a deep desire to renounce the family and take up sannyasa. And so he begged his mother for permission, but she wouldn't relent. She said, "Who would take care of me? I'm a single lady living with only you." So he kept asking her and she kept refusing. One day, in the same Purna river which was flowing near their house, little Shankara was taking a bath when a crocodile caught hold of his leg. He started screaming pitifully and asking help from his mother, who was alone and so couldn't do much. And so, finally, little Shankara asked his mother, "Oh mother, at least now please give me permission to take up sannyasa." And she, realizing that she would anyway lose him, agreed and gave her permission. And so, Little Shankara said, he folded his hands and said, I renounce the pleasures of this world, the interspace and the heaven. I renounce. And suddenly the crocodile let go and disappeared in the waters. Shankara came out, took the blessings of his mother, and his mother, knowing that there was something greater destined for her son, gave her permission, but with an assurance that he would come back to her whenever she needed him. And so Shankara began his journey on foot, in seek of a guru with a supreme goal in sight. When he reached the banks of the Narmada, in a cave near Omkareshwar, he had heard that there was a great sage, Govinda Bhagavat Pada, who was in Samadhi. It was almost as if this great guru was waiting for his disciple, because when little Shankara entered, he was all of 8 years of age then. The sage opened his eyes, welcomed him and said, Son, who are you? Now when we give our introduction, we would mention our name, our family, our profession, our position. Whereas Shankara, in 10 verses, the Dashashloki, he began, I am not this body, I am not this mind, neti, neti, not this, not this. I am of the nature of the Supreme Self. The sage was so delighted at hearing this that he immediately accepted little Shankara as his disciple. And little Shankara continued to serve his guru and learn from him. One day, when his guru was in Samadhi inside the cave, the villagers came running to little Shankara because the river Narmada was in spate. The waters were rising, the village was submerged, and soon the water would enter the cave and disturb his guru. With utter devotion, little Shankara took his kamandalu and placed it in the path of the rising waters. What could the river do except start ebbing? She started decreasing and began flowing gently in her usual course. The guru was very pleased with Shankara, but one day Shankara had a vision of none other than the great sage Vedavyasa, who told him that he ought to go and spread the knowledge of Advaita, the highest knowledge that there is one Supreme Lord and the Jiva or the limited individual is one and the same as that Supreme Brahman. One has to only realize the unity of the two. Now, in the country, there were many different sects, each Pandita having his own thoughts or philosophy, his own followers, with multiple debates and fights between the various sects or schools of thought. There was utter chaos and confusion in the minds of the common men. And so, Vedavyasa told him that he should go and spread the knowledge and unify the country. Taking the blessings of his guru, Shankara set forth on foot, because in those days there were no other facilities. As he began moving from place to place, his followers and his disciples grew in number. One of them was Sanandana, whom he met at Kashi. So devoted was this disciple that once when his guru called out to him across the river, he started just walking towards his guru on the water. And lotuses began sprouting forth just to support him. He got the name Padmapada because this was a miracle. Another devoted disciple who was close to Shankara's heart was Giri. He would serve his master with the greatest of dedication, and while the other students wondered what made him so special, once Shankaracharya decided to prove to them. So he called Giri and told him to begin taking the class. Giri, who did not even know Sanskrit, had not even a single doubt and so began speaking. What came out was the Totakashtakam in a meter called as Totaka meter, which was never heard of before. and he began singing these 8 verses, the last line of each verse saying, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. O Shankara, O teacher, please become my refuge. And Shankaracharya ji gave him the name as Totakacharya and remained very close to him till the very end. As Shankaracharya ji moved on, one day he saw an old Brahmin who was mugging up the rules of Sanskrit grammar. Dukrun Karane, Dukrun Karane. Moved by compassion, he composed a garland of verses along with his disciples, which is known as the Bhaja Govindam. He said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrun Karane. O fool, at the time of death, these Sanskrit rules will not help you. Seek Govinda, serve Govinda, worship Govinda. This was a strong message to all of us that in spite of all the worldly knowledge that we may have, at the final moments, it is only the Lord who will take care of us. One day, when Shankaracharya ji and his disciples took a bath in the Ganga and were coming out, suddenly in their path stood an uncouth, unclean man with a host of dogs. And so they said, Gacha, Gacha, move, move. This uncouth person asked them, what should I move from what? My body, which is made of earth, from your body, which is also made from earth? Or my soul, which is of the nature of the all-pervading consciousness, how can that move? Hearing this, sending a message to all of us, Shankaracharya ji composed the Manisha Panchakam, in which he ended the line of each verse saying that be it a Chandala or a Brahmin, the one who has realized is my Guru. And he fell at the feet of this person. Now, Shankaracharya ji moved further. From Kashi, he went to Badrinath, crossing Haridwar, Rishikesh. Then onwards, he moved into the Himalayas, reached Kedarnath, Amarnath, Gangotri, Uttarkashi. He even got the blessings of Vedavyasa, who appeared as a sage and blessed him with an extension in his lifespan. As we know, he was destined to live only for 16 years, but the mission was yet far from over, and so Vedavyasa ji blessed him with another 16 years. Now Shankaracharya ji started moving south. He crossed Gokarna, reached Sringeri, where a man came to him and he had a 13-year-old son beside him. He begged of Shankara, please cure him. He has not spoken a single word since birth. He acts so weird. He has absolute disinterest in all the matters around him. What shall we do? Shankara lovingly asked him, who are you, son? And this boy, who had not spoken a single word since birth, began, I am not a man, nor a devata, nor a yaksha. I am neither a Brahmin, nor a Kshatriya, nor a Vaishya, nor a Shudra. I am not a Brahmachari, a Grihastha, a Vanaprastha, nor a Sannyasi. I am of the nature of that pure Atma. Hearing this, Shankaracharya ji realized that this child had seen the self as clearly as one would see an amla fruit on one's palm. And so, giving him the name of Hastamalaka, he took him as his disciple. Now, he suddenly got news that his mother was critically ill, and so he hurried to her as promised. In her dying moments, she got great comfort by seeing her son, who gave her the highest knowledge. He in fact composed a hymn, hearing which the messengers of Lord Vishnu came to take her soul. But if we think that by now Shankaracharya ji would be very popular, having gained so much knowledge. It was far from that. When he decided to cremate his mother, the Orthodox community members refused to support him, for they were aghast that a sannyasi would perform this duty of a son. However, his love for his mother compelled him to create a funeral pyre out of the waterlogged stems of the banyan trees in his backyard. Seeing this, even the Orthodox members came around. In fact, Shankaracharya ji wanted to reduce the north-south divide, and so he appointed the Nambudri priests as the caretakers of the temple and idol in Badrinath. The idol of Lord Narayana had been retrieved by Shankaracharya ji himself from the Alaknanda river and installed in the holy shrine. And to this day, the Nambudri priests are the official priests at this shrine. Shankaracharya ji could have sat in one place in Samadhi, reveling in the highest knowledge. But no, he had a mission. He moved from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Rajasthan to West Bengal, trying to spread this highest knowledge of the Vedas. In fact, at that time there were many karmakandis. And in Kashi, there was a famous karmakandi, or a person who believed in rituals to reach the goal of heaven, named as Kumarila Bhatta. Shankaracharya ji wanted to debate with him and to make him accept that there was only one goal, which was attaining the supreme truth or Brahman. Kumarila Bhatta was at the end of his life, and so directed Shankaracharya ji to go debate with his disciple Mandana Mishra. Mandana Mishra was no less learned. Even the parrots in his house could recite the Vedas. And so Shankaracharya ji approached him for this debate. But who would be the judge? It was decided that Mandana Mishra's wife, Ubhaya Bharati, was also a great scholar. It was said that she was the incarnation of Ma Saraswati herself, would be the judge. And so it was decided that each would wear a garland, and whosoever's garland wilted first would have to accept that the other was the winner. And the debate began. It went on for 18 days. In fact, because Shankaracharya ji was not well versed with the family or grihastha knowledge, he for a short period of time left his body, entered a dying king's body, and experienced the joys, the sorrows, the worries, the anxieties, the attachments that a householder endures. And then coming back, the debate was completed. The flower garland on Mandana Mishra's neck wilted, and as was the tradition in those times, Mandana Mishra fell at the feet of Shankaracharya ji and accepted him as his guru. He came to be known as Sureshwaracharya. Now, Shankaracharya ji started unifying all the believers or worshippers of various deities. In every temple that he went, he composed hymns or stotrams praising the deity of that temple. He wanted to stress that the forms may be many, but the Supreme is only one. And so, he played a very important role in unifying this spiritual and religious fabric in our country. In Kashmir, there was a Sarvagnya Peeth, or highest seat of learning, where there was a throne of omniscience which could be ascended only by one who had won over all other schools or philosophies. And so, accompanied by his disciples, Shankaracharya ji went to Kashmir. There, Mother Saraswati is worshipped. At 4 different levels, he had debates with the greatest scholars of 4 different schools of thought and won over each of them. And unanimously he was declared the victor, and he sat on that throne. the highest seat of learning, Sarvagnya Pita. Now, the time had come for Shankaracharya ji to leave his mortal body. He had accomplished a lot in this short 32 years of his life. He had established monasteries in the four corners of the country. At Badrinath, it was the Jyotirmata, where he appointed Totakacharya as the head. In the south, it was the Sringeri Sharada Pita, where he appointed Sureshwaracharya ji as the head. In the west, it was the Dwaraka Kalika Mata, with Hastamalaka as the head. And in the east, at Puri, it was the Govardhana Mata, with Padmapada as the head. He left behind a legacy where more and more people could come to these matas or monasteries and gain the highest knowledge. He would leave his body, but the Guru Shishya Parampara would continue. And so, on one day, finally, after giving blessings to all his disciples and followers, he moved behind the shrine in Kedarnath and disappeared. The mortal body of Shankaracharya ji was no more, but his works live on. The great commentaries written by him, known as Bhashyas, which earned him the title of Bhashyakar or Bhashyacharya. Commentaries which began with the Vishnu Sahasranama commentary, which he did for his Guru, and then the commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, on the Brahma Sutra, on all the Upanishads and such great texts. The divine stotrams that he composed for all the deities, and the Advaita philosophy that teaches us that there is only one truth, the Supreme Lord or Brahman. May we all be blessed with the presence of a Guru in our lives. If you wish to revel in the divine atmosphere of the place where Adi Shankaracharya ji was born, do visit the Adi Shankara Nilaya, which is in Veliyanad in Ernakulam. It is in the premises of the Chinmaya International Foundation. Kaladi, the ancestral home of Shivaguru and Aryamba, is also nearby. So this is a visit that one must do in one's lifetime. May this story and this visit inspire you to become a seeker on the path of Advaita. I will be back with another story next Thursday. Until we meet again, Hari Om.